Hi, TBS readers. This is Mrs. Greenberg, back to read another Hanukkah story with you. Today's story is called The Miracle Jar by Audrey Penn. Have you ever heard the story about the miracle of Hanukkah? I've never heard about the miracle jar. Hanukkah came to a tiny snow-covered cottage in the old country. 8-year-old Sophie awoke to the warmth of a crackling fire and the smell of hot buttered cinnamon toast. I just love that descriptive language. I can almost smell it. Tonight's Hanukkah, she sang cheerfully as she danced out of her bedroom and into the glow of the fire. When do we light the candles? Just as soon as the sun goes down, Mother said with a smile and loving hug. But there's a lot to do before that. Sophie finished her breakfast, ran to the cupboard, and removed the broom her father had made out of straw and wick. I'll sweep the floors, she said, her face flushed with excitement. That can be my Hanukkah present to you and Father. That's a wonderful gift, applauded Mother. We'll have a sparkling house for the holiday. I sure can tell this happened a long time ago, not only because they called it the old country, but also because of the way they're dressed and the way he made the broom. Perhaps it means they don't have a lot of money, or perhaps it wasn't something that you could buy back then. Sophie's younger brother, Reuben, shuffled out of his bedroom and rubbed his tired eyes. Is it Hanukkah yet? He asked. Yawning. Not until the sun goes down, Sophie told him. But there's a lot to do before that. I'm going to sweep the floors for my Hanukkah gift. Reuben ate his breakfast and then sat at the table looking thoughtful. What can I give as my Hanukkah gift? He asked his mother. I love the idea of doing something for someone as a Hanukkah gift. I think it's just as, if not more special than buying something. Well, let's see. Reuben's mother glanced around the house. Her eyes fell on the brass menorah her grandfather had made more than 50 years earlier. You can polish the menorah, she told Reuben. Then you can add the shamash and first candle for tonight. Reuben grinned and went straight to work cleaning and shining the old menorah. When he was finished, he put the shamash candle in the center and the first night's candle on the end. Hey, you know what I just realized? I just finished reading The Ugly Menorah. I'm not sure if you listened to that one, but I can connect something between the two of them. I can make a text-to-text connection. In The Ugly Menorah, there was a sentimental story, a memory about the menorah Rachel's grandmother had. And in this story, it seems that Reuben's mother's grandfather made this menorah. So there's a family memory, a sentimental story about this menorah. I wonder if you might have some Judaica in your house, some Jewish artifacts, or some traditional tools that you might use for holidays, like a menorah that perhaps has a story. It's beautiful, said Mother. She picked up Reuben and twirled him around the room. This will be the nicest Hanukkah ever. Before long, Father appeared in the kitchen doorway carrying an armload of firewood. He shook off the freshly fallen snow and greeted his family. My, the house is so nice and clean, and the menorah shines like a bright new shekel. I wonder who did such a beautiful job. Sophie and Reuben jumped up and down. Those are our Hanukkah gifts to you and Mother, Sophie told him excitedly. I swept the floors and Reuben shined the menorah. Those are the best gifts we have ever received, said Father. Thank you. And we are all looking forward to your holiday treats, he told Mother. Well, Mother said thoughtfully, if we're going to have my holiday treats, we're going to need an 8-day miracle, just like the first Hanukkah miracle. The first Hanukkah miracle? Asked Reuben. I think the illustrations are beautiful in this story also. I can see some maybe pen or pencil drawing, perhaps some watercolor. Father smiled as he took off his coat and boots, then gathered his children around the fireplace. The miracle your mother is talking about has to do with the sacred oil that stays lit above the Torahs in our temple. You see, in ancient times, when Judah the Maccabee and his followers reclaimed their temple from the Syrian king, they cleaned it and prepared it for rededication. The word Hanukkah means rededication. But when the sacred temple menorah was relit, there was only enough oil to burn for one day. I suppose it's supposed to remain lit at all times. Back then, it took 8 days to make a new supply of sacred oil, which meant there wouldn't be enough oil to keep the menorah lit while more was prepared. Then, an amazing thing happened. What? Asked Reuben. A miracle, rejoiced Father. That single day's worth of sacred oil lasted 8 whole days and nights, keeping the menorah lit while more purified oil was made. That's why we light 8 candles. It's to celebrate the miracle. The shamash represents the tiny bit of oil that stayed lit. Are you going to make a supply of oil as your gift? Sophie asked her mother. You can tell she's not really putting things together yet, right? No, dear, but I am hoping for a similar miracle. There's only a little bit of cooking oil in the cabinet, and we need oil to make our 8 holiday treats. I'm not sure there's enough oil to last all 8 days of Hanukkah. Mother reached up and pulled the jar of oil down off the shelf and showed it to everyone. The jar is almost empty, and there's too much snow on the ground to go fetch more from the store. Sophie clapped her hands excitedly. Then that will be our family gift. We'll make the oil in the jar last all 8 nights of Hanukkah and can make our own miracle. What a wonderful idea, agreed Father. He made a label that read Miracle Jar and tied it to the glass container using a string. Let's see if our miracle jar will surprise us like the sacred oil surprised Judah the Maccabee. What do you think? Is it going to work? Will there be a miracle? That night, when the sun went down, Father stood before the brass menorah and sang a prayer. Then he took a small stick from the fireplace and lit the shamash. The tiny light sent a dancing glow onto the mantel and ceiling. Sophie and Reuben took hold of the shamash together and lit the first Hanukkah candle. Do you light the candles with someone in your family? Perhaps hand over hand, just like Sophie and Reuben? When they returned the shamash to its place on the menorah, they welcomed Hanukkah with a song and a spin of their dreidel. Father called Sophie and Reuben over to his chair and handed each a shiny gold coin called gelt. These coins are to remind us that after Maccabee became an independent state, they proudly minted their own coins instead of using those of the Syrians. That's cool. I didn't even know that. Well, I suppose it's time for our first miracle gift, announced Mother. She led Sophie to the kitchen where together they peeled and grated 3 large baking potatoes. What do you think they're making? When they finished, Mother opened the miracle jar and poured some of the oil into the heavy black skillet. When the oil was nice and hot, she poured the potato batter into 4 little pancakes. She and Sophie watched as the latkes bubbled and fried, turning a nice crispy golden brown. When they cooled, Sophie, Reuben, Mother, and Father each delighted in a potato pancake. They all agreed that it was a very tasty holiday gift. When the remainder of the oil cooled, Sophie's mother poured it back into the special jar to be used for remaining treats. So here they are grating the potatoes. And then here she is saving that oil. On the second night of Hanukkah, Sophie and Reuben lit the shamash and 2 candles. After a game of dreidel, Mother opened the miracle jar and poured the oil into her black skillet. When the oil was piping hot, she dropped small hand-rolled donuts into the pan. Soon they sizzled to a delicate brown. Mother placed the donuts on a plate to cool, filled each one with jelly, then sprinkled them with a flurry of snow white sugar. Everyone laughed at Reuben's white powder mustache. Do you ever eat jelly donuts on Hanukkah? I don't think there's any other time of year I eat those, but I do love them at Hanukkah time. The third night of Hanukkah brought fried corn fritters to the table, and on the fourth night, Mother made Sophie's favorite treat, crispy, crunchy fried potato sticks with salt and butter on the side. Yum. The fifth night of Hanukkah brought fried bread and powdered sugar to the table. Looks like French toast. But Sophie could see that the oil in the miracle jar was dwindling, and she wondered if all 8 nights would bear gifts. They've got 3 more, right? Sophie and Reuben lit 3 candles each on the 6th night. They sang songs and watched the candles slowly melt away as they ate thinly sliced apples that had sizzled and softened in the oil-coated pan. That sounds delicious. I bet that would be good with some cinnamon and sugar. I can't believe it's already the 7th night of Hanukkah, said Mother after the candles were lit and the songs were sung. But I'm not sure we're going to have our special miracle. She opened the miracle jar and turned it upside down. The last drops of oil danced across the hot black skillet. Sophie and Reuben sprinkled peanuts onto the oil and laughed as the peanuts popped and twirled, turning into a crisp, crunchy brown. But there was no oil left to pour back into the jar. I guess we can't make our last holiday treat, said Sophie, sounding very disappointed. Well, that's the amazing thing about miracles, said Father. They always show up at the most unexpected time. Let's see what tomorrow night brings. Oh, I sure do hope there's going to be a miracle. Father was right. When the last night of Hanukkah began and the shamash and 8 holiday candles were lit, it was hard to feel sad in the glow of the shimmering menorah. Maybe we can have another miracle jar next year, said Sophie. Then we can have 8 miracles instead of just 7. Remember what Father said. Sometimes all it takes is a little imagination to come up with a Hanukkah miracle. Mother led her family into the kitchen, then reached up and took the empty miracle jar off the shelf. Next, she opened the door next to the pantry and reached up to the top shelf. Her fingers knew just where to go as she grabbed hold of a small piece of cheesecloth. Cheesecloth is sort of like gauze, like what you might put on a wound. If you maybe cut your knee or something like that, you might wrap it with some gauze, but cheesecloth is used in the kitchen. While her family watched, Mother stuffed the cloth inside the jar and wiped the jar's oil-coated sides until they were sparkling clean. Then she took the cloth and spread the oil on the bottom of her skillet. There was just enough to coat the pan. Oh, it's sort of like buttering a baking dish. That's what she's doing. As the oil heated, Mother whipped up a batter made from flour, water, and egg and poured it into the skillet. When the large fried pancake was ready, she turned the skillet upside down and dropped the hot treat onto a towel. Father and Reuben peeled and mashed an apple, and then Sophie added a stream of sweet golden honey. This sounds like the most delicious one they've had so far. When the mash was ready, Mother spread it onto the pancake, rolled it into a log, and sliced it into 4 equal parts. Everyone got a piece of the 8th miracle treat. Sophie was very excited. She hugged her mother, then licked her fingers clean of the apple and honey. You did it, she told her mother. You made a real Hanukkah miracle. You made the oil last all 8 nights, just like the oil in the temple. Father was also very excited. Now we know how surprised everyone must have felt on that very first Hanukkah, he told his children. Isn't it nice to know that some of the nicest gifts are the ones that surprise us the most? Last page. Sophie and Reuben watched as the shamash and the last 8 candles melted away. Happy Hanukkah, Sophie told her family when the last of the flickering flames went out. Happy Hanukkah, echoed Reuben as he licked the last of his honey-coated fingertips. That sure was a happily ever after ending, wasn't it? I hope you have 8 Hanukkah miracles too, and I hope you enjoyed reading the story. Come back next time. Bye.